Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. And welcome back, everybody. This is for anybody that's connected to a healthcare organization, whether you do that professionally or for the rest of us. You know, we are connected in some regards. Every time we go to the doctor, our records are pretty much at stake there. We're going to talk about the Change Healthcare breach in information. I'm politely putting it that way, with a gentleman that has a company that has spent over 2 decades committed to empowering healthcare organizations to improve their patient care and improve their IT and improve security as well. Matt Lepkowski joins us today on the program. Hey, Matt, how you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, this whole situation with Change Healthcare, why don't we go back? Was it United Healthcare where that actually began?
Well, yeah, I guess there's a few layers to the story, right? So it was probably 5 years ago. There's a company called Optum Health. And in healthcare, I'll back up a little bit to explain the process. So when you go to see a doctor, they have to send an invoice, right? Most people are covered by some sort of insurance. And that process involves sending an invoice, which it's called a HCFA, HCFA. So it just stands for stuff that basically equals invoice, right? And on that, we have to say, what was your diagnosis? And then what did the doctor do, right? And then the doctor do stuff that equals money. And so usually you will get something back that'll say explanation of benefits and EOB. Yes. And then it's all that gobbledygook. And it's like, what did they pay? And why do I pay this much? And it has patient responsibility and deductible. Like that complicated thing comes from the doctor sending the HCFA to an insurance company. So there are organizations that sit in between the doctor system, the billing side of that, and the insurance side of that. And these are, I'll call them payment gateways for lack of a better term, but they're processing engines. And Optum Health is one of the big ones. Yep. And United Healthcare owns like everything. And they went and bought them. And the U.S. government sued them and said, no, don't do this. You're going to take over too much information. You already provide healthcare. You already have hospitals. You know, the concern is that those systems see the claims for all of the insurance companies, right? So they would get special information about what Blue Cross pays and what their competitors pay. And so that's what the federal government was kind of concerned with, that there'd be some collusion on pricing because they have access to this data, right? Federal government lost. So United got to buy that company. And they were operating them. And obviously they didn't keep their eye on the ball from a security perspective. And the exact way they got in is not really been disclosed, but it sounds like it was sort of one of those phishing type things where they basically conned one of the employees into doing something the employee shouldn't have done. And so they got in and they stole all the information and then they encrypted it. And so they had a ransom on that. And Change Healthcare was down for about 2 months. That meant all the doctors have clients like hospitals, they couldn't bill. They could get zero income, right? Because you'd say push to send the bill, didn't work. It broke pharmacy things. So like you put in like, hey, I got to send somebody to get a prescription. Nope. They got that one in like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I think they got that one sorted out.
Wow.
But a lot of the other stuff, they paid $22 million to get the keys to decrypt their information because they couldn't get it from their backups. And so they're lax processes.
So do I have this, clear that they paid the ransomware or no?
They paid it.
Oh my gosh. Is it pretty much unheard of for that to happen? Just in the,
No.
That happens a lot where oh my gosh. And
a lot.
Where the mind blow here is you have the unscrupulous people with the ransomware going in, sucking the information out of the system and then encrypting it. So now nobody can touch it unless you pay. But on the other side over here, where's the backup protocol? Where do we go wrong here? Crazy.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of things that are going on, right? So there's like 3 ransoms that they always do now. At first, they would just break in, encrypt your stuff, and your stuff's broke. And before they even do that, they figure out where your backups are. And so they delete your backups. They go and they try and find a way to screw that up because they know, well, what's my move, right? All my data's messed up. Go to my backup, restore from my backup. And a lot of companies, almost every company has some sort of a backup system, but they will have they call them recovery time objective, RTO, and recovery point objective, RPO. And they will set stuff for that. And usually it'll be like 24 hours or, a week or something along those lines. And they don't necessarily test their backups. So there isn't a great kind of observation, if you will, of, gee, why did all my backups disappear? Because, that's sort of a precursor to bad stuff coming your way. And, they just didn't really invest. They didn't really care. And they, I'm sure, destroyed whatever backups the company had. And so they weren't able to do what they typically would have done. On top of it, if they've destroyed a lot of your infrastructure, like they destroyed all of it, right? So they were in there a long time. And you don't there's so many complicated things, right? So they don't necessarily have a great documentation on how do I rebuild the castle? Like, do I put this stone in first or what, how do I put Humpty Dumpty back together? That's hard to figure out because not too many people plan on, a complete decimation of your environment. And, that's sort of the world we're living in right now. And people are able to get away with these things. And so it was such a big mess. And it took them, almost 8 months now to come up with 100 million people have been impacted. They can kind of defend that. So there's 100 million snail mail letters going out to people in America. And they're going to say, look, your data's been compromised. And, we're going to offer you whatever, security monitoring. But here's some of the stuff that they say
can I
actually stolen.
Can I jump in? Just say, because you hit a pain point with the security monitoring. So we're pressing pause on the Optum situation. So
right.
Ticketmaster had a breach.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I get a letter and it explains this whole, situation. And then but we're going to make it up to you and at least make you feel better with free security monitoring for a year. So I go to the link and it's a dead link and I double check everything. It goes nowhere. I tried again. I must have tried to log in with the information they gave me. I'm not exaggerating because I was on a mission like 15 times. Went nowhere. I believe they use TransUnion, so it's a company connected to TransUnion. I even called tech support and connected to this whatever company it was for the credit monitoring, and they had no idea what I was talking about. So it's all smoke and mirrors. It's all false sense of security. And I got frustrated. I ripped the letter up and threw it away. I don't even know what the link is anymore. If that's that. So back to the Optum situation. I wonder how we're going with that.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting because I don't know who the insurance company is. Like, we're going to find out who that is. Because the reason healthcare gets demolished is, we have HIPAA. That's almost 30 years old now. And that says thou shalt not, lose the data or disclose said information unnecessarily. And the threshold on that was 1,000 records is a federal offense, right? Like, you have to go to the federal government if you lose 1,000 records because it was paper in the 90s. So, like, if you can't keep track of 1,000, boxes, you're a knucklehead. And now, 1,000 boxes, nothing, I can put that on a CD.
Wow.
And so the threshold is pretty low for what they have to do from a reporting perspective.
So, question
And
with all of the you paint, Matt, you really paint a really clear picture of what happened with the ransomware people.
yeah,
Yes, they encrypted it and then for $22 million gave it back. But is it reasonable to assume that they made copies of everything? So they got that floating over here. So essentially, even though they gave it back, floating over here is they could be selling your information, your sensitive medical information to other people, right?
they already did. Yeah. So the first thing they do is they steal your data. Then that's what I was saying. Like there's three things that they ransom you on. So first they steal your data, then they potentially analyze it, and then they'll encrypt it, right? So you finally will like, oh, gee, I had a problem when they do that because nothing works. And you will get different ransoms. And it looks like this case, they sold the data to another company, and that company's asking $4 million not to post all the data that was stolen. So so they paid 22 to try to get their systems back up. There's another $4 million bill out there so that they don't disclose it. And then usually what they do is they read all the stuff and they will say, look, we now have everybody's emails and phone numbers and all this information. And if you don't want us to start sending them notices that we did this, here's the other charge. And that's pretty common. And so they finally said they have a sense of what was stolen. And it says includes health insurance data, health information such as medical records, prescriptions, test results, like labs, you go get your images, so possibly your pictures of, CTs, MRs, X-rays, diagnoses.
This is
billing claims, financial and banking information, social security numbers, driver's licenses, and passport numbers. That's pretty much everything about you.
Matt, Matt, I love you, but you made me angry today.
I know.
I knew this was big, and I have a very close friend who works at a medical facility and a private one, and now it's connected to a small billing company, if you will, just to help them. I'm going to tell her, call you, to help them with their business transactions and such. And I remember over the summer that her boss, the doctor, was freaking out because the prescriptions weren't being dispensed because there was no insurance connected to it. The doctor was freaking out. How am I going to pay the employees here? All of that. I just cannot believe in this day and age, and these companies, which are so big and have so many resources, that this could happen. First of all, but then happen at this scale. And then it's almost like comedy that they had to buy their information back. And then they don't have backups, or they do, but they were so poorly orchestrated that the hackers could get in there and take it as well. It's almost a joke, a poor joke. I can't
it's sad.
It's
and
sad.
There's actually, so there is something going on. Biden signed the Infrastructure Act a couple of years ago, right? That $1.5 trillion that we're doling out, right? Fixing bridges and all kinds of other stuff. And a slice of that, I think they're talking about like $400 million is coming out. And I can get there's like two senators that are working on this. They're going to potentially offer some kind of money for smaller clinics and smaller organizations to beef up their cyber. And they're going to have all kinds of teeth for systemically important organizations, right? So insurance is going to fall on that. Then we had the Colonial Pipeline debacle, right? That was similar. And we've had other kinds of episodes that are just within, like AT&T got sued. And then I was just reading that Unisys and Avaya and others got in trouble by the SEC because they didn't appropriately disclose the level of infiltration from a previous episode, which was, what's that company? There's a company that, I can look it up. They basically gave us remote monitoring tools. And so the Russians went into the update process, right? And they inserted code. So then you downloaded a new, like, oh, it's new, improved, and it had stuff in there. And the Russians were using it to sneak in to various systems.
It is just amazing what can be done. And I experienced over the summer, I don't know if I shared with you, I got a new modem from the cable company, right? And shortly thereafter, my printer would spit out these ransomware notices. And it was dot matrix generated, cheesy little picture of a devil. And it was cryptocurrency. It equated to $33 US. And every few days it would spit it out. You better pay. We're going to, blah, blah, blah. And then I looked deeper into it, called the cable company, and realized that they didn't put the firewall on. I can't do it. And I'm kind of geeky. I happily, log in it. You can't do anything with any of these modems. I can't even shut off my Wi-Fi, which is, a foot away from me if I want to, minimize EMF during the day while I'm sitting right here. I can't even do that without calling the cable company. So they had shut that off. So once they put it back on, then the messages stopped. And apparently, whoever's doing it is just hitting any open port anywhere on the planet, because I even Googled that. I did a reverse image search of what came out of my computer, and I found somebody in either Australia or New Zealand. That's where it was. They got the same thing. So there's so much going on out there.
Yeah.
Your professional opinion, in a sentence, how do you feel and or describe the Change Healthcare breach? How do you've given us the information. I want to know from you personally, with words that we can say here, your feelings on that professionally.
Yeah, I mean, they raped 100 million people. So you're completely violated. It's despicable, really.
Yeah.
Violated. Like you said, that's great. They're large enough to know better.
Yes.
They. So yeah, like I said, I don't know whose insurance company that's behind this stuff, but they're going to have a real mess on their hands in terms of not only. So there's a few things that happen, right? So when you pay the claim, they usually put you on a different list, which says these guys pay the claim, right? So now you're going to get hit by a lot of other folks. So if you haven't cleaned up your mess, they don't wait that long. They used to kind of wait. Now, they could already have another problem, and we just haven't heard about it. So there's that. Then the fact that they can do all this analysis of your data, they know more about the data that they steal than the companies do. And so they have all kinds of ways to, manipulate and put these different things out there.
Unreal.
The company was SolarWinds, and that was 2020 was when SolarWinds, it was like another company found the problem. It was one of the cybersecurity, white hat guys. It's like, Jay, there's a lot of stuff. Why are these computers talking over here to Russia? Like, there's no reason for that. And then they tracked it back to like a binary that was in SolarWinds, and then it kind of rolled all the way back, and they figured out what was going on. And a lot of companies got hit, like some of my clients. They were using that product. And the SEC, so the public companies, put out some disclosures. And the SEC is suing these companies, saying, you guys didn't really you knew more than you let on in your disclosures. That's fraud. And so a couple of them, it's like Avaya paid $1 million to the SEC, just like a sentence in a 10K cost them $1 million because they knew more than they put in a disclosure. So the bar is not low for what you have to do. And I can only imagine, just take the United thing. They're a publicly traded company. What they're going to have to put in those disclosures is going to be pretty bad.
The word you used, violated, the best one here, in my opinion. I feel violated, and it says it all when you said that the hackers, we'll call them that, know more about the data that they stole than the company that you do business with as, somebody, a patient, your insurance, all of that. These people know more about it than that. And honestly, I heard about this. I never knew that they locked it down so much and encrypted it. And I didn't know that 22 mil was paid to get it back. Shame on them. Embarrassing. I'm embarrassed to be an American. I really am. At the level of information that got out there.
There's a thing here that the French telecom company just got banged. So we're not alone.
I'm not saying we are, but we would think that we're pretty savvy. Apparently not. Your company helps organizations and very much so healthcare organizations move things forward with their IT systems, improving the security, obviously the efficiency, compliance at the same time. What an eye opener today. I have friends who are geeky and techie. I can't wait to have this conversation. It's just like I was not aware how deep this went. And also the fact that the hackers got in with the backups and dealt with that. That is just unacceptable. Just unacceptable. If somebody has a company, big or small, Matt, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Probably they could call or email. We have a website, obviously. Good number, 732-356-2789. The easy email is info@bae-llc.com. You can Google us. There's not too many folks named us. And we're happy to kind of answer some questions. We do get a number of our clients have come to us in the mess, right? And it's a delicate situation.
Sure.
And I really feel for them because unfortunately, not just the big guys are having this issue. I've had doctors that are like 3 doctors call and their systems are wrecked.
Oh yeah.
And we have to help them. And it's not about your size. It's about the ease of somebody doing something to you. Yeah. That's how you get on the list. So if they, now they know all this information, they're going to find out a little more about people out there, and they're going to say like, oh, I know, I see this guy, Steve Harper, here's his email. What can I do with this?
Stop. It's making me sick. Matt,
change your passwords, man.
Well, thank you for that reminder as well. And reach out to your company before something happens, at the very least, to make sure that you're locked down in terms of security. Thank you so much for being here today. What an eye opener, and we need to open our eyes. And looking forward next time we get together, Matt.
Thanks, Steve.
Appreciate it. You too. We'll be right back. Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.